Hello and welcome to the Addicts Anonymous podcast. I'm your host, Jim Rochelle. Today's episode 265, and we're going to be interviewing Bill. How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing great, thanks, Jim. How you doing, buddy?
I'm glad to have you here. How's everything going? So
Awesome.
you're up in Canada. How's everything going your
Yeah.
ways?
Well, yeah, things are going pretty well for me myself. I guess, yeah, it's crazy times we're living in, but yeah, things are going good.
Yeah. So let's dive in here and get started. I start the episode off the same way I do every episode. Let's start with your childhood and growing up.
Okay, sounds good. So basically, like I grew up on a farm in northern Alberta, just outside of Westlock, and so my parents were farmers, right? We had a huge pig farm, and like ever since I can remember, my parents never slept in the same bed, right? So they'd always fight and stuff like that, and sometimes physically, which was obviously pretty hard to watch as a child, but from what I can remember, I enjoyed my childhood. I was always outside playing around and stuff. But I was like a real mama's boy, I'll admit that right away. And so I was just a little bit of trauma here and there. Seeing my dad had just really, really bad anger issues right at the time. And so yeah, there's just a bit of that. And then so like normal childhood basically, just a bit of stress with seeing my parents fight and stuff all the time. And when I was 10 years old, though, that's when kind of life took a really bad turn. I was diagnosed with T-cell leukemia. And unfortunately, my parents didn't know any better, and they were just like really afraid for my life, right? So like they sent me through like the Western medical route, which was, just saying like knowing what I know now, I would not go that route. But so I went through like the regular chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and then a bone marrow transplant. And like I had like full body radiation. So for anyone that doesn't know what that is, it burns you from the inside out, right? And so it left a lot of damage, scarring on the inside of my body. It damaged my voice box, like a bunch of organs and stuff like that. And obviously like my brain too as well, right? So shortly after that, I beat that and I went through a bone marrow transplant and I started to recover my health a little bit. And like don't get me wrong, I still struggle with a lot of things like you can tell my voice is different, stuff like that. And it stunted my growth and obviously it caused some premature aging and stuff like that too as well. It's tough, man. It's rough for anyone to go through, let alone a child, right? Shortly after that, after I beat that, me and my mom and brother were coming home from a checkup, and my mom was super tired. She fell asleep at the wheel, and basically went through a stop sign, and we were T-boned, and me and my mom were thrown from the vehicle. The vehicle landed on top of her, killing her instantly, and I suffered like a fractured femur and a really bad concussion. And at the time, like obviously, like I said, I was super, super close to my mom. Like I was a real mama's boy. I spent, months at a time, sometimes in the hospital going through cancer and whatnot, right? And she never left my side. So she was like just a huge, huge part of my life. And she was my best friend, right? And when that happened, it just really, really devastated me. And it really, like I say, like I hate to say it, but it's the reality. Like it just made me really angry and hurt obviously do, right? Emotionally hurt damage. And I started acting out from then on, basically. Once I recovered from the accident stuff and started going back to school, I started like stealing my dad's cigarettes. And I think I was 12 years old at the time, basically. And my dad made his own booze, so I was taking that too as well, taking that to school. And that's kind of how it got started. And I just, I was obviously when I was going through cancer and stuff in the hospital, and I guess I shouldn't say obviously, some people don't know this, but like when you're going through radiation therapy, it's super, super painful, right? So they give you a lot of morphine. And that's kind of like where I got my taste for opiates. Like I said, there was the 3 month. I was in there for 3 months one time. That was when I was doing my bone marrow transplant. And so basically, I was on opiates for 3 months straight. And I was on a buzzer where I could hit the morphine every 4 minutes. And as a child, like I was 10 years old at the time, right? So I really enjoyed it, right? It stopped my pain. Plus, I just like the feeling it gave me. So I was hitting that buzzer every 4 minutes, right? Sometimes, like I was hitting it basically as often as I could remember to hit it, right? And so it got to the point where I was like losing consciousness, and they actually had to take it away from me. And I remember when they were taking it away from me, I started panicking and crying, and like I didn't know it at the time, and I didn't think of it at the time, but knowing what I know now, I'd say I was probably addicted, right? And So that's kind of like how I first got, introduced to a narcotic of any kind. And so yeah, fast forward, I'm stealing my dad's cigarettes and taking to school, taking his booze to school, drinking to school, and skipping school, and that kind of like just like it was, just as it does, it escalates, right? And I just noticed, um, basically, I was really struggling. My dad saw it too, so he was like, he wanted to move, get away from the memories of my mom and all this stuff too, right? And try and start fresh. So basically, we moved to where my dad's sister was on the island, and just like I said, to get a fresh start, and hopefully things would change for the better. And it's just like that geographical change they talk about, right? It was definitely was not the answer, and things just continue to snowball and get progressively worse, right? At this point, me and my dad, my brother, mostly like me and my brother got along a lot, but there's a lot of strife between me and my dad and my brother and my dad, right? And so we were just like, obviously my brother was struggling too with drinking and things like that and acting out. And again, like it was really stressful. My dad, he was a single parent now at this point. And so he basically told me, he got to the point where I was just too out of control, and he just told me like he couldn't handle it anymore. So I had to go. And so basically I ended up moving. This was at 15 now. So I ended up phoning up my uncle. He was living in Kamloops at the time. He was my mom's brother, and we got along really well. So I basically phoned him and just told him my situation and asked him if I could come down there and stay with him, and he was more than happy to try and help me out and try and get me on the right track. And again, so I moved down there like hoping for things to change, but I was struggling with my health too. I should mention too, like even though I beat the cancer and all that stuff, like I still had all the damages from the treatments. They I had like really bad, brain fog, and obviously really bad anxiety and depression. And my growth was sudden, so I was like smaller than the other guys. And kids can be cruel, right? So it was just like it was really hard fitting in, right? Like they noticed I was different, and then they bug me and tease me, and so it was like I say, it was tough, man, right? So I would just, I would drink basically like all any alcoholic and drug addict will tell you. It's basically that's I got that sense of ease and comfort, and it gave me confidence, right? And I felt like I performed better when I was drunk, because then all the anxiety and the depression and stuff would go away for a while, right? And then I could. It was so bad at the point, man, where I didn't like my voice. Like my voice now is a lot better than what it used to be, but like right after it was like you can barely hear me. Like I sound like a mouse, right? I still sound like my voice is still kind of really low, right? But back then it was horrible, right? So like I'd be scared to even talk to people just because of what my voice sounded like and afraid of what I was saying. Like it was bad, man. So like I said, I turned into a binge drinker pretty quick. I'd wake up in the morning and I'd get right to it, right? Just to get that sense of ease and comfort right away, and then I would go about my day. And I wouldn't get blackout drunk, but that came upon pretty quickly. Like whenever I partied out, I got blackout drunk, and bad things would happen, obviously, right? So yeah, things like your just continue to snowball, like out of control. I was getting into the criminal element. Still a super super angry dude. I felt like the world owed me something.
What do you mean by the
Um,
criminal element?
I started selling weed and basically selling weed and mushrooms. That's kind of like, and then I was just doing petty crimes, right, to support my habits, stealing, breaking into homes and stuff like that. And then, so basically that continued on for about 3 years, staying in camps with my uncle. I've been working with him on and off, and he'd like find me and pass at the bottom of the stairs. I don't know how, and I got there, and like it was really bad. And like I had actually had my health was so bad, I was like really struggling to. My weight was honestly, I think I was probably 87 pounds soaking wet at the time. And so I was still going for checkups and stuff in Vancouver. It's about 5 hour trip away. My uncle would take me down there, and they were trying to put me on like Prozac and stuff like that, which I wouldn't take. But they actually put a feeding tube in me because they're trying to get me to gain weight so bad because my weight was super, super bad. Just because I wasn't taking care of myself. I was just how could I was doing dope and drinking and binge drinking all the time, and yeah, I just wasn't taking care of myself.
So you were
So
doing
basically,
heroin?
No, I wasn't doing heroin at the time. Like
What do you mean?
I was,
What do you mean by dope?
I was just smoking weed and
Oh,
doing some
okay,
cocaine.
gotcha.
Yeah, here and
You,
there. And then so basically, I got to the point where my uncle was like, he got really scared for me, right? He's one day he was just like, I don't want to find you, dead or hear you're, locked up in jail. He's like, so he's like, I've tried to help you and I can't help you. So, you gotta go. I can't watch you destroy yourself like this. So basically, I phoned up my brother. He was still living on the island. And I knew he was doing really good. He was basically doing the same thing I was doing. Like I didn't know to what point he was doing that, but I phoned him up and just asked him if I could come stay with him. And basically like he was growing and selling weed and and selling some other stuff too, which I wasn't aware of at the time. But he said, yeah, sure, come on down. And he was like super, super successful. And when I got down there, he just had me stay in like one of his grow houses and he was like connected with organized crime and stuff, right? So I kind of got like thrown right into that, taking care of one of their houses, and it was just like, like I was just super happy about the situation because that's kind of where I saw my life going, and that was what I wanted to do, right? And I actually got really addicted to making money, which helped me stay away from drinking and stuff like that. And it just gave me a lot of confidence in making, because I was making a ton of money, right? So it gave me a lot of confidence, and for whatever reason, I stopped drinking and I just started smoking. Like I was a daily weed smoker, right? Like smoking half ounce a day. So I wasn't, that was kind of my crutch at that point. But as things went on, and like I kind of stayed in that for a while, and things kind of got rocky. Like the guy who he was working with, and the guy who was trained my brother what to do, and doing what he was doing. He was like high level, and basically he was just like he wasn't a good dude. Let's just say it that way, right? And basically like he would just train people up and then rip them off. So I caught on to that pretty quickly, and I just kind of seemed like that was probably gonna happen to me soon. So I kind of like I went on. Me and my brother did our own, went away and kind of did our own thing, and that's when I got isolated again. So basically, this guy I ended up getting introduced to crystal meth, and just for sake of time, I started doing meth, and the first time I did meth, I'll just say like it was the most I smoked it, right? I just took a huge dragon of it or whatever, and it was so powerful, it scared me, right? It really scared the bejesus of me because I was scared of how good it made me feel, which is kind of weird, right? But um, so I stayed away from it for a couple weeks. At least in my memory, it was about a couple weeks. I don't might have been a week, but and then like just like it was calling me, right? Like I was getting that itch to do it. I just took one time where I got really pissed off, and I went and seen him again, and I did a whole bunch, just like one after another, and then I was basically up for 3 days and got psychosis on the third day, and I saw SWAT teams outside that weren't even there, and it got really bad. So like again, it scared me really bad, and I stayed away from it for probably a couple weeks at that point, right? And just fighting not to do it, right? But sure enough, I went back to it again, and so I kind of like got into doing meth here and there, and I kind of did it like I was getting scared of what was going on there, and just because I didn't want to be a meth head, right? Like always, for whatever reason, I always made fun of like drug addicts and stuff. Like I didn't make fun of them to their face, but like it was just a running joke between me and my brother. Like we dealt with that sort of stuff, but we weren't doing it, right? But so um for whatever reason, I just started doing it. Obviously because I liked it, right? But and I was addicted, and I was an addict, and so basically like it's snowballed from there. I was still doing really good, like dealing and growing and stuff like that, and things are progressing, right? I bought my first place when I was 19, and again that's where I got like more isolated, where I was just kind of stuck in this house growing, and then just my brother was moving all the stuff, right? But so I just got really isolated, man, and I just got heavy into the meth and just a bunch of other stuff I don't really need to get into, but that was kind of like I kind of got really scared of what was going on a little again, like just losing a ton of weight and just obviously just getting into a lot of psychosis and stuff like that. That's what happens with meth. I just feared losing everything, right? So I kind of moved away. I moved back to Calgary. I told my uncle what was going on, and he like basically he gave me an opportunity to just come down there, get myself clean, and so basically that's what I did, and I was doing really well for it was about a month, and I just felt like I got this, I can do this, and so I went back, right, and as the old story goes, I just got right back into it again, and basically I started started dealing with some stuff I shouldn't have been dealing with, like stolen goods and stuff like that. And just because like I was so addicted to making money, no matter how much money I made, it was never enough. So I was
What's a
dealing
story
awfully.
grid?
What's that story?
Would you say what's a story grid?
As this story grid, so I didn't say story grid, but I just said as this like as it goes, like I would just I would get, just move here and there, get a little bit of clean time, and then come back.
Gotcha.
I didn't, yeah. And then I just get right back into it again. But like I said, I was super, super addicted to making money. That was kind of like my, it was an addiction, right? It was my thing at the time. And I never stopped smoking weed. I was always smoking like a half ounce a day, right? Which for me, it wasn't a problem. Like I didn't think it was a problem, right? Even though it is a problem. And so then again, I'd start, like I said, I was dealing with all these others like ketamine and all these party drugs and stuff like that. And I would just do these on weekends, and then again, those would get out of control, and I'd kind of bounce back and forth with different drugs. And then it was one day, I was working with my brother, and he was chalking up some stuff in front of me, and I was like, "Oh, what is that?" And he looked like he was having a really good time, laughing and stuff. And so I was like, "Oh, what do you got there?" And he's like, "It's oxycontins." And so I was like, "Oh, can I try that?" And he just obviously gave me some, and it was just like it reminded me basically of when I was doing morphine. Like I hadn't done opiates in all those times. I was doing all this other dope, and then once I did those oxycontins, I basically did them for like 3 years straight. And then every day since that one time I tried them, just because I loved it so much. And that was kind of like how things went, man. And then shortly after I got into the oxycontins, I was dealing with stolen goods, and I started hanging out with guys who were smoking crack and stuff. And then I started smoking crack. And then that's when life really like it got to the point where I just could no longer do what I was doing. I couldn't even leave my house. I was boarding up my house, my windows, my doors. It was just insane. And I wasn't making my mortgage anymore. I was, foreclosing my property. Um, so then I started looking into like going into detox, right? Because I didn't I didn't want to lose everything, right? So I heard about detox, so I went to detox. I just did like a 9-day thing, and basically I was like, it was basically just the one where I was got feeling a little bit better, right? And I phoned up my buddy who was basically selling me crack, and he came and picked me up, and I was right back at it again. And so it got to the point where I just basically I lost my house, and then so I went to treatment because I didn't want to be in that situation anymore, and I kind of wanted to get my life back on track. But I just thought, it was just like a learning thing for me, right? Because I just thought, I'd get clean and I'd be okay, and I'd just go back to doing what I was doing, and I'd be clean, right? And I found out it didn't work like that. You know what I mean? I couldn't be hanging out with the same people I was hanging out with and doing the same thing I was doing. It just wouldn't work. So I'm in and out of treatment, and then I got homelessness. I was homeless for about 2 months, and basically at that point, I was basically just collecting money that people owed me and to support my habit, and then just doing like shoplifting and stuff like that. That's the point I got to, right? Whereas I went from like, just making thousands and thousands of dollars a day to not even being able to support my habit because I had a crazy habit. I mentioned this too because when I went into this and I had all this money, I built up like a $900 a day habit, right? Which is like impossible to support without doing what I was doing. And once I lost all that, I went right back into it again, and it was, like I said, it was brutal, man. Like I was just consumed with doing dope, and it was, I'd be up for 10 days at a time sometimes in complete psychosis, not, blackout, just really, really bad. And so this went on for like 7 years in and out of treatment and detox facilities and homelessness, obviously, right? And then it was 5 years ago, basically when I was homeless on Hastings in Vancouver, and I was just really, really at a real, real bottom. Anyone that knows East Hastings, Vancouver, it's basically like, it's like the night of the living dead down there. It's a war zone, right? And I was ducking and dodging from like getting beat up all day, every day. And not even, like I said, sometimes I'd be up for 10 days at a time and just super, super skinny, not eating, not drinking, and suffering some health problems at the time too, obviously. And I was on methadone, which I never never been on before. I never wanted to get on it, but I just couldn't, like I said, couldn't even support myself. And the worst thing for like a heroin addict is to be dope sick. And I just didn't want to go through that. So I got on methadone. It was kind of like maybe it was a saving grace, maybe it wasn't, but I think it was just a part that I hit rock bottom too, right? But anyways, these people at the methadone clinic, like this is how bad I was, Jim. They thought the people in the methadone clinic, I'd go in there just for like a daily reprieve from Hastings, and they treated me like gold in there, man. Like these people were amazing there. The one of the guy who worked there, he was a recovered addict, and I'd come in there just rough, like dragging my ass in there, right? I don't know how long I'd be up for on a bender. And I'd come in there for like a sandwich and get some methadone when I couldn't buy any heroin or whatever, right? It's just brutal. So I'd go in there and he'd just talk to me and stuff and try and encourage me to go back to treatment. And basically they told my dad, like they were telling my dad, and they thought I was retarded. Like that's how bad my mental health was, right? And so him and my dad were talking back and forth, trying to get me into treatment. And so finally he convinced me to go to detox. And then this dude actually walked me. Like he set up a time. He's like, I come in there, methadone clinic, and I actually made it in there. And he actually walked me down to detox. And then while I was in detox, he got me a stay in Together We Can, which is in Vancouver. And basically like that was the roughest I'd ever been in my addiction, right? Like just as far as my health and like just my mental health and all that, right? That was at my wit's end, right? And so I thought I really wanted, I did at that time, right? But for whatever reason, like I usually bounce back when I go in the treatment. I bounce back pretty good, right? Like not as quick as the other guys because of my health issues from before, but I just wasn't getting it back, man. My energy was super, super low, and I was just really, really struggling with like my mental health and stuff. And so before you know it, I was like, I got a day pass and I was out, doing dope down in Hastings again, and it was brutal, man. And basically, brought some dope back one day, and I was doing it in the bathroom, and like fortunately enough, like I didn't lock the door properly, and this guy busted in on me when I was doing dope, right, which was obviously super embarrassing. I felt horrible, and it was like it was rough, man. I felt really horrible for what I did to this guy because just to see someone doing that in first stage treatment is pretty tough, right?
Wait, so
So, anyways, like,
you froze up for a second? Where was this? Was this in rehab?
yeah, this was in rehab. I was in the bathroom doing dope, and I was
Gotcha.
like yeah, I was like in like a 1.5. And one of my buddies who I was staying with, like he was actually my roommate, and he came in like it was so awkward, man. Yeah, like I thought the door was locked, and he opened the door and looked in, and I looked at him, and it was just like he pretended like he didn't see it almost, right? And it was tough, man. And obviously he went and told the counselors, right, which is obviously is the right thing to do. And so they came and they called me in there, and basically they said like we gotta ask you to go. But he's like because they had a bunch of other houses. It's a massive recovery center. And most other places, like they just you gotta hit the streets, right? They pack you up. But this place is really good in this Together We Can. So basically what they did was they sent me to another house, right? They gave me another opportunity. And from then on, I just like I don't know if I was at the point where I was kind of recovering a little bit, but anyways, I jumped in balls deep, and I got right into the program, doing all the steps and helping guys. And it was really good. Like in this house too, they had like basically where we'd like we'd go down on these tastings, and we'd feed the homeless and stuff, and like give them blankets and make sandwiches for them. And I found that was like it really helped me, man, because my whole life I never felt like I had a purpose, right? And I was just such low self-esteem. So that really helped me feel good about myself, right? Which was what I needed. And so I did really good, man. I started um like obviously really taking my recovery seriously, and I started volunteering at the recovery center as well. And I was like looking into getting training in counseling and stuff like that. And so then I was moved on to second stage, and I actually was given an opportunity to manage the second stage house. And so, I was like doing the best I'd ever done. And like it was actually like built up self-esteem, like actual true sense of self-worth I never had. Like, cause when you're a drug dealer and all that stuff, like I didn't feel good about what I was doing, right? But like I said, I was just addicted to making money, right? And I felt like the world owed me, which is, crazy, but that's what it was. And so, I was doing really well, and I had like 10 months sober. And I again, it was like kind of snuck into me. Like I was making a bunch of money. I was getting free rent, and basically I was on disability, and for whatever reason, like I guess it was just an old habit where I just got addicted to the money again, right? And so I was doing all that, and then I picked up a job on the side, which was like I was painting at this massive grow house. It's like a huge like greenhouses or whatever, and basically so I just started like way overworking myself. I just got to the point where I wasn't taking care of myself again. That was my recovery was struggling, I guess you'd say it. And I just stopped doing my meetings and stuff like that, and I was just kind of more focused on making the money again. And I started struggling with my mental health, and like my physical health was struggling. It never really got better. The drugs kind of like just helped me give me energy and stuff like that, which for whatever reason, I guess once I got into treatment, I would see how bad my health actually was. But so basically I got my depression back, my anxiety was coming back, and the thought of doing dope again came back. And I was just really stressed and really fighting that urge to do dope, man, because I just knew what happened. For whatever reason, the memory was strong in what happened last time. I was just super scared of where I could go this next time, because it seemed like every time I went out, man, things got worse and worse and worse, and I would do way worse things to support my habit, right? And I didn't want to be homeless on Hastings again, because that's where I was going. And so basically I never had this thought before, and this thought came to my head, well, if you can't do it now, you've never been able to do it, you may as well just kill yourself, right? And it scared the living bejesus out of me, right? And it just dropped me to my knees, and I just started crying. And I cried out to God, and I just begged God for help, like honestly bawling, begging God to help me. And I don't believe in coincidences. And the very next day, it was a Saturday. I'll never forget this day. It was a Saturday, and I usually didn't go painting on the Saturday. I used to just take that day off. And for whatever reason, I went to work that day. And basically that's like it was nearing the end of the day, and this guy, I was up in of scaffolding painting, and this guy came and asked me, I knew who he was. We just said hi in passing and stuff. There's a massive crew there, right? Like I worked on a painting crew, and he worked on like a different crew. Sorry. And basically he asked me for a ride home from work. He said his crew left him and he needed a ride home. So I was like, yeah, sure, man, I'll give you a ride home. Just let me finish up what I'm doing here. And so as I'm giving this guy a ride home, he's telling me the story of this guy, this holistic health and life coach. He saved his life from glyphosate poisoning. It's a long story. I won't get into it, but basically he had glyphosate poisoning from spraying Roundup on blueberries. Like his parents owned a massive blueberry farm, and it was his job to spray these blueberries since he was like a little kid, right? And he was 19 years old, and he was a personal trainer. He was supposed to be a pro rugby player for Canada. And one day he just got so sick he could barely get out of bed. His parents like sent him like to India, the States, like all over, trying to figure out what was wrong with him. And he was losing his eyesight. Like things were getting really bad. He lost like 70 pounds, and like you said, he was dying, right? And he was just his parents went to a health convention one time, and they took him with them, and he ended up meeting this guy who he's telling me about. And basically he told me about how this guy detoxed him and basically radically transformed his health in like a matter of months. And for whatever reason, I just had this feeling. I was like, okay, I need to talk to this guy, right? And I just asked him, I was like, is there a way I can contact this guy? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I can see if I call him right now. Long story short, I ended up talking to this guy. We talked for like an hour the first time, and he just blew me away, like on the things he was telling me, right? Like even though I was a drug addict, and I think it was like 17 years is when I first started drinking and doing weed, right? And so even though I was like a fall down like addict for most of my life, I was making tons of money, and I was always looking to better myself, right? But I never like my health, my physical health, right? Because for me, that was what I thought my problem was. And so once I heard all that, I just asked him, I was like, do you have success with drug addicts? And sorry, he basically told me he had like a 99% success rate, which I was like, there's no way. I didn't believe it, right? But I just thought like this is an opportunity, right? I just felt like it's just that gut feeling, right? That I'm gonna go with this. I ended up hiring this guy and working with him, and basically he like radically transformed my life and my health in a short amount of time and basically freed me of every addiction I ever had. And like this guy's a man of faith, right? And like I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not, it's just for me, this might work, not work for other people, but basically like he introduced me to Jesus Christ, right? And one prayer, and I was freed of every addiction I ever had, bro. Even like I obviously as a man, masturbation, like I was a chronic masturbator, right? And everything, man, don't like I'm celibate and all that. And in just one prayer, bro. And ever since then I haven't craved the drug, alcohol, none of that. I quit smoking, like it's crazy. And so basically now like I just how I give back is just like I'm working and training in holistic health. And basically so I just reach out to people who are struggling and I offer them coaching or we do a lot of free Zooms and stuff like that too as well. So and then I read the Bible daily, right? That's kind of like how I keep myself centered.
It sounds like you're in a good place right now.
Yeah, buddy, amazing place for sure. We have 5 years and 7 months sober now.
Good for you, man. That's a long time. It's a
Yeah,
very long time.
yeah,
So you attribute a lot of your recovery to this holistic approach you've been taking.
yeah, most definitely for sure. Like I said, like I mentioned, a lot of my struggle was, I mean, of why I did, started doing drugs and stuff in the first place was obviously my mental health, right? But what I've learned now is our mental health is attached to our physical health. And same with our spiritual health too, right? Because it's mind, body, and spirit, right? And if we're suffering in any one of those areas, it can cause problems in any one of those areas, which it does, right? And so once the first thing I worked on was through detoxing and stuff like that. I radically changed my diet and what I was putting in my body, right? And also what I was feeding my mind and stuff like that, right? It's crazy, but what I had to do was I basically stopped hanging out with all negative people, like anyone that wasn't supporting me in what I was doing. Like I kind of took a new path, right? And so basically I had to cut out all these different people that weren't supportive of me in what I was doing and just focused on my health, right? My physical, mental, and spiritual health. And yeah, man, it was the transformation was quite quickly for me and it really blew my mind because like I said, I'd struggled most of my life with all these different issues of anxiety, depression, chronic fatigue. Like after the radiation and stuff, my memory was non-existent, man. Like I'd walk in and out of rooms forgetting why I went there, right? Like it was tough. Like life was a struggle, man, for such a long time. And it's weird, like when I did drugs and stuff, it seemed to help many different areas of my life. And I think that's why I was so obviously the spiritual aspect too, right? That's a heavy thing. But for me it was like it was a crutch because I felt like they really helped me be functional on a day-to-day basis, which they did, crazy enough, right? But they took a real physical toll on my body, right?
Yeah. So we're getting towards the end here, and we were talking before. So tell us a little bit more about your practice and what you do now.
So basically now like what I do is like I'm kind of like working and training with the guy who got me into holistic health. So he's been doing his thing for over 30 some years now. And basically he teaches you how to reverse disease. So basically it starts by like I help people detoxify themselves on the cellular molecular level. That's a huge part, right? So we help people, we teach them about diet, nutrition, and then hydration, as well as like basically parasite protocols, and then just fixing nutritional deficiencies, right? So it's a process, right? There's a lot to learn in there, but like we can teach people like simple basic protocols where they don't have to learn like the ins and outs and all the science behind it, right? But so basically that's what we do, man. And we work with anyone, right? So right now at this time I'm just like I'm basically like I'm just like I said, I'm just taking a bunch of different training programs and mostly like the life coaching and stuff. That's kind of like because I know like the detoxing all that stuff now, but basically when you want to get into life coaching, it's because I was never obviously I was a drug dealer my whole life. So there's a lot of things I have to learn about, communication and things like that, right? But I want to focus on helping people that went through cancer like I did, as well as addicts, right? That's my main focus.
Well, sounds like you're doing good things and doing very well for yourself.
I'm trying, man. Keeps me on the straight and narrow.
Yeah. So did you have anything else you wanted to throw in before we go?
Yeah, man. I would just like to say, like, as a positive note for people, like, no matter how far down they think they've gone, like, because like, man, my story went on for such a long time, right? Like since I was 10 years old, basically till I got clean. It was just a super crazy struggle and a lot of hopelessness in between there, right? And like I honestly didn't think I know if I would ever get to the point where I was like enjoying life, right, without drugs, right? Now once I was in the thick of doing drugs and stuff like that, I never thought like that. I was just consumed with doing dope, right? As I'm sure you understand. But looking back on it now, I just like to say to anyone, like, no matter how hopeless you feel, like there's always hope, man. You know what I mean? Don't give up. And for me, another thing too was I never wanted to ask for help. It was always so hard to ask for help. And like I obviously wouldn't have done it on my own, man. And it was meeting these people in these pivotal moments, like in the methadone clinic there, like those people I met there, like I never felt that kind of love in a long time just because I isolated myself from good people. But being in there and just seeing how they treated me, they didn't know me and they just genuinely wanted to help me. That was huge, right? And that was a stepping stone to me getting well, right? Just seeing people really genuinely cared. And so yeah, just like don't be afraid to ask for help. We all need help, right? It's we can't do this on our own, obviously, or we would have done it, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Completely agree with that.
Mhm.
So did you have anything else you want to throw in before we go?
Yeah,
Or
no,
that
let's
you're good to go?
just let's Yeah, thanks, buddy. Check out our website. It's elitedynamiclife.com, or just check me out on Facebook, William Kem, and just see what we're doing because we're doing some pretty amazing things as far as like teaching people how to heal themselves of sickness and disease. So yeah,
Great.
thanks a lot for having me, Jim. It was a pleasure.
No, you did great today. You told a great story, and I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. Without people like you, I couldn't do it.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, sit tight for a minute. And for everybody watching and listening, if you like what you saw and heard, go below and give us a like. Also, subscribe to see when we upload new videos. You can also check us out on all social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, TikTok, you name it, we're on it. I also suggest checking out our website, which is www.addicts-anonymous.com. There's plenty of free resources as well as free literature. Also, Addicts Anonymous has a book out right now, available on Amazon and Kindle, called Addicts Anonymous: Our Stories. It's a collection of different topics I wrote about, as well as a collection of people's stories from their personal experience with drugs and alcohol, any type of addiction for that matter. So I hope you guys enjoyed today. I hope you could check out the book, and hopefully we can catch you next time.